Hey there, this is Dan, and you're watching The Salty Sea. We just had a head-turning weekend of Warcry reveals, so let's put them all in one place and take a look, shall we? I'm hugely positive on most of it, with one tiny exception. So let's start with the favorites, and then we'll just make a little negativity sandwich there in the middle and end with my second favorite. Let's go. First, we've got the new faction starter packs. I think they've given us a great mix here, and not just because there's one from every Grand Alliance. The Skaven and the Flesh Eater Court warbands are some of the highest tier warbands in the game, really great for competitive players, and then Kharadron Overlords and Ironjaws are just awesome. The Skaven box even has Giant Rats and Rat Ogres, which are the two really powerful things that are in the Skaven lists. Then the KO box, it's got your Balloon Boys, and it looks like it's got all 5 Thunderers. Thunderers are 44 USD American dollars for everyone else. So that's pretty good. If these boxes, they've been retailing for about $50 in the US, so that's an incredible value. Same's true of the Ironjaws box. 5 Brutes and 5 Ard Boys is an incredible value if these continue to go for 50 bucks. Then the Flesh Eater Quartz box, that's sort of the start collecting with no Zombie Dragon. If I was going to collect Flesh Eater Quartz, I'd still probably take the SC box just because of the extra Zombie Dragon in it, but this might just be half the price of that box, which is really good if you have no interest at all in AOS. Overall, I just think this is one of the best releases from last year, and so if these are anything similar, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be great for getting into the game, or it's going to be great for collecting your favorite Age of Sigmar army if the Warcry set is the units that you want. For example, the Gloomspike Gits, you could get them for about the same price as you would get 10 hoppers anyway, and then you would just get 3 sneaky snufflers for free, and then you could just get 2 of those boxes and be well on your way to an army. I think it's possible that something like that is going to be true here for Ironjaws and for KO. So now let's get into yesterday's news from the larger preview that had some other games in it. They're going to be giving us these Grand Alliance books. I think the look of them is super cool, but I'm a little worried about a few things. Now, there might be some really great stuff in there, and we'll get into that a little later. But, you know, one thing that brought a lot of people into Warcry was just the simplicity of it. You know, you could get the core book and your favorite warband and be off playing with your own terrain easily. Now, you know, we've got Monsters and Mercenaries, we've got Tome of Champions, now we've got all these books. There's just a ton of stuff they're asking you to buy just so that you can play with the latest expansions. I know you don't need them to play, but it's a little disappointing if what you like about Warcry is the simplicity. It's also going to be kind of gutting if 3-4 months down the line, after you've bought, you know, say 3 of these books, they just release a Tome of Champions that's just these 4 books combined. You're going to feel a little gouged by Games Workshop, so that could be a bit of a worry. That said, these are going to be a great resource for starting. Let's say if you just got the first starter set, you know, all of those warbands are going to be in the Agents of Chaos book. You only need to get one. That could be a really great resource, but if you're feeling like you need to buy multiples, this could really hurt. Now, one positive that is coming with them is the potential for new units. Now, it's possible they were just sort of posing things to look cool, but I doubt it. They're usually pretty intentional about this stuff. Now, they're showing here in the Khorne video in the top left here, there's some Blood Warriors and Blood Reavers, and those are already in the game. But we don't have Skull Crushers, which is the human mortals on those Rhino Juggernauts. Right now we only have Blood Crushers, which is the demons riding them. That's also one of the things that Khorne Mortals actually just did a faction focus on them. One of their issues is lack of mobility, and having the Skull Crusher in the roster would really help them a lot. Then we've also got a couple Cities of Sigmar units that are coming in new. We see a Sister of the Watch and a Demigryph Knight, neither of which are currently in the roster cards. That could be really cool. I don't know if Cities of Sigmar is going to be all just one massive faction. If so, it could be really incredibly powerful and also sort of exhausting to try to figure out lists for, or if they're going to break it up a little bit. Either way, having these two units will be really nice for anyone who has that collection. Now, just to get into what they said each book would have, they didn't actually promise new units. Those were just pictures. Here's what they are promising. You're going to have your Warbands, all the fighter cards, which is going to be great. And then not every faction or Grand Alliance has access to monsters now, and this is heavily implying that they will afterwards. And then I think there's going to be a whole bunch of new campaign stuff for anyone who likes to play that way. Here's hoping we find out more about these in the coming weeks and months. I really want to know if these are going to be sort of doubled up in a Tome of Champions book, or if these are just the main rules expansion for the year. Finally, we've got the big box. Now, we've seen a lot of this before, but seeing it all together right here, it gives us a little bit of certainty on what we're actually getting. We've got new and repeat terrain, so even for those who think that the gateways look silly, and there's been a few of those people online, you're still going to get a decent amount of the old terrain, so you can still make old style games with this box if this is your first starter box. Second, they're going to give us the core rulebook and an expansion book. I've really got hopes that the expansion book is going to sort of create a new tactical depth to the game that you can kind of change which one you're playing and have different units be good in different games. One thing to note with some of their new boards that they're showing is that there's these black lines here that are walls, which I assume that flying units aren't going to be able to just pass right through like they can in the main game right now. So that's going to be a nice little handicap for some of the really powerful mobile units, and it could also give some defensive units a new lease on life. There's sort of actual choke points now, so that if you can get your defensive unit into an area, the opponent's mobility and speed isn't going to matter for anything if they can't shift your, let's say, Puskoil Blightlord off of a spot. So that could really help some of the sort of more slow plotting warbands and make for some kind of change up in your gameplay that should be really nice. Then after that, they've got these new warbands here. Now, I've already shown them on the channel, so I don't want to get too deep into them, but I still think they look sweet, so that's going to be really great. We don't know a ton about how the Scions of the Flame, the ones on the left here, are going to play. Hopefully there's, tying in with the fire, maybe they're tossing it, maybe, a few units in the game have sort of ranged burn spells where they use dice abilities to get anything within 6 inches some damage, and that could be an interesting route for the Scions. For the K-Knight Shadow Stalkers, they did give us a little teaser for how they're going to play, as far as blinking between shadows in an instant and commanding your own reflection to stab you in the back. It sounds like this is going to be a very mobile warband with maybe some abilities to sort of flash around the battlefield. Also, having your own reflection stab you in the back, I wonder if that's going to be sort of wound reflection onto them, or maybe it's forcing enemy units to attack themselves. Maybe when they were making this warband, one of the very first things in the game that people complained about was, single very powerful units. This was sort of in the first months that the game was out, before people started realizing that flooding the board with chaff was the most powerful thing you could do. So I wonder if this is going to be sort of a hard counter to any kind of elite, sort of super tough units in Warcry, say your Kurnoth Hunters, your Iron Jaws Brutes, things like that. So let me know what you think. I'm definitely going to be buying one of the small starter boxes, either Flesh Eater Courts, Iron Jaws, KO, Skaven. So let me know what you'd like to see on the channel. I'm going to be buying them to give them some test games and then do one of the faction rundowns, and that should be a ton of fun. I'll also probably be buying all 4 of the books, but I really can't suggest you do, since I'll just do it since I've got warbands of each and I make videos for this game, but I certainly wouldn't buy it if I wasn't doing that. Let me know in the comments what you think about the new reveals, and until the next time, may all your rolls be crits.